All right, and up next, let's talk about the project structure. Essentially, I just want to showcase a few ways how we can structure our project. Because while we're working on somewhat small projects, this type of approach where you set up the components folder or whatever you want to name this folder and then set up all your components there is awesome. But as your project grows and you have need for more files, you might want to implement different approach. And effectively, we're going to work in the 04 project structure. We'll work in the star one. And as you can see, at the moment, it's empty. And also in the app.js, I'm not importing anything. So JSX is empty. I just have the container. And effectively, one way how we can set up the structure for our project is by setting up every component as a folder. So let's imagine that we have some kind of navbar component, and instead of just setting it up as component, I want to set it up as a folder, and in there I'll actually have the CSS file. Now, the goal here is following. Essentially, as our project grows, we might want to keep all the files that are associated with that component in one folder. And in turn, it's just easier. You don't have to run around your project and look for CSS files, the test files, and all that. You know that, hey, this is a component, and these are all the files that are associated with that component. So let's try this one out, and in the process, we'll take a look at multiple approaches. So in here, I'm going to go to starter. I'm going to go to a new folder. Let's just call this navbar. And in here, we'll just set up some example component. Again, it's really irrelevant what we have over there. So I'm just going to go with navbar JSX. Let's create the component. I think I'm going to change it to heading like so. And then I'll create empty CSS file. Again, it's irrelevant what we have over there. Just want to showcase the example. So I'll go here with navbar and then CSS. And of course, if you want to test it out, you can set up the CSS over here and you can import in navbar. I'm not going to do that. Then I want to go back to app.jsx and I want to import that component. Again, the goal of this setup is essentially to keep all the files that are associated with that component in one place. In this case, it's just navbar CSS. But of course, there's other things that you can keep over there. And in the app.jsx, if we want to grab this component, we simply go with the name of the component and we use the auto import and check it out. Now, of course, I have the navbar displayed on the screen. And again, all the files that are associated with this particular component are located in one place. But here's the gotcha. Notice this one. We have navbar and then navbar. And this is somewhat annoying, where essentially, yes, I have a nice folder, but I don't want to keep using two names here, one after another, which essentially are the same. And one solution for that is to create here index. So we're going to go here with index.js, and basically we can set up the logic here in the index.js. So for time being, I'll just copy and paste because we will change our logic in a second. For now, I just want to showcase that if, let's say, I go to index.js, and then if I go back to my app one, I can omit that navbar. Now, I do need to fix the extension. My apologies. I keep forgetting with Vite that we need to go with JSX. So let me save here. And now check it out. I have the navbar. So essentially, we save that one word here. So instead of navbar, since this is a node project, it's essentially a node thing where if you have index in the folder, that's going to be used as an entry point. So whatever you have over here is going to be right away exported. So in our example, we don't need to look for a specific file. We can just say, okay, so get me the navbar folder, aka the navbar component. Now, what is the issue with this setup? Well, if you have tons of files, effectively it just becomes a bunch of indexes. So it's very hard to navigate around your tabs. So let me show you a way how we can have our cake and eat it too. basically we won't have to use that navbar, and we also won't have a bunch of these indexes over here. So I have the navbar component and I have the index.jsx. What I can do in index.jsx, I can import the navbar and then export it as default. The way it's going to look like, we're going to go over here, export, and then default, and we're looking from, and since it's in the same folder, we just look for the navbar. And if I navigate back to the app.jsx, first of all, if I want to do something in the navbar, well, I'll be using this tab, right? So this is my component, and I'm just using index to export that component. And in here, nothing changes. So if I want to grab the navbar component, then of course, I'm just looking for the folder. And as you can see, everything still works. So we have no issues. So that's how we can set up essentially a folder for every component, and few ways how we can use index.js to simplify our workflow. Now, let me stress something. It doesn't mean that now you have to use this kind of setup for every project. Again, this only makes sense if your project is big and you need some kind of structure to navigate around the project.